Hello and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Stano. I'm the Chief Evangelist and the COO at Resco. And today's topic is going to be something new, something we haven't done much as of yet. And the topic is Resco on wearable devices, wearable technologies, and the primary focus will be the smartwatches. So what I prepared for today is to give you a little bit of the overview of the vast spectrum of wearable technology, what it is, what kind of devices companies are working on, and we customers and partners can utilize. Then I'll talk a little bit more about Resco's focus. What are the dark horses that we're betting on? I'll talk about key identifiers that I believe are really crucial in order to be successful when trying to implement and utilize wearable technology. I talk about the concept of continuous experience, a little bit about the tools, and also a big part of today's webinar will be dedicated to demonstrations. I'll prepare two demos, one on the actual smartwatch and one showing how it can be set up using our tools. And when I say it, I mean the mobile experience or the experience on a smartwatch. So that's the plan for today. Again, thanks a lot for joining me. A few house cleaning information before we start. You're all in listen only mode. That means you can hopefully hear me, but I won't be able to hear you. Yet I would like to encourage you to write any of your questions, ideas, suggestions, or feedback using the GoToWebinar application in the questions section, please. I'll try to get to all of your questions towards the end of the webinar. If we run out of time, you have my word that I'll get back to you after the webinar is over. Perfect. So let's start with the landscape of wearable technologies. And as you probably have an idea, that landscape is really big. It's really huge, really large. There's a lot of different technologies pouring at us that claim that they can make our lives a little bit better. They claim that they can bring a lot of new insights, new information, new data in a much easier to consume way. So to really make sure that we understand what these technologies are, let's look what categories they come in. In case you feel lost sometimes, I feel the same way, especially over the last week when I was preparing my slides and content. It's so many different devices, so many technologies that at certain times I felt like this gentleman on this particular picture. As you can see, he's definitely a wearable technology enthusiast, but perhaps he didn't get everything right. So let's divide it into a number of areas and number of groups of wearable technologies. So the very first one is the one on the right side, and that's the audio and video category. When we talk about audio video, think about different kind of headsets, glasses, smart glasses, or even contact lenses that can be equipped with technology. So the common suspects there are smart glasses. If you're familiar with the Epson glasses, that would be a good example. Maybe some of you remember Google Glass project from a few years ago that was actually restarted. Google calls it Google Glass Pro now. And in this category, there are definitely some of the AR, VR headsets as well. HoloLens from Microsoft, currently in the second generation, or maybe some of the devices from Oculus Rift or Oculus. That would be the typical hardware that you can think of. Then there's a very different category called medical and safety. So think about audio-visual aids, medical sensors, etc., that can provide you with more information around the vitals and your vitals. Another sector, clothing, safety clothing, sartorial robotics, really interesting area, I think big future. And then there's another category on the left-hand side that it's more related to our body. So when we talk about our limbs, hands, sensor gloves, rings, that can capture a lot of information as we perform different types of tasks and jobs and activities, or devices that we can wear on our feet. Think about shoes or insoles. I heard about an interesting story how athletes can actually use insoles to capture a lot of very important information, especially when we talk about runners, how they land with their feet on the ground, and a lot of important or hopefully important information and data that we can gather this way. And then probably an area that is really popular or getting a lot of attention, and that's the quantified self category. Think about fitness bands. So if you use Apple Watch, maybe Fitbit, maybe some of the devices from Garmin, Polar, Sunto, etc., etc. These can be also accompanied with some biosensors, maybe chest straps that you can put around your upper body, and they can track some vital information as well, such as your heart rate, number of breaths per minute, etc., etc. So as you can see, that landscape is pretty big, and it's not always easy to understand. Okay, like what's going to be the next big thing? What should I use? We're talking about enterprise area. We're talking about business solutions mostly at Resco. So to try to figure out or identify what the best technology in terms of wearable technology going to be is sometimes not easy. But if we should make our bet, here are the three areas, three concepts that we think have the biggest potential to pick up in the enterprise sphere. The first one is the area of our heads. And I'm not going to pinpoint just one device in particular, but a number of devices that we can wear on our head. So we at Resco are targeting smart glasses, the already mentioned Epson ones, Google Glass Pro, etc. But also we put into this category the AR, VR headsets that you can wear on your head, so the head-mounted display ones, such as Microsoft HoloLens and HoloLens 2 or Oculus Rift. Then the other area that we think has a great potential is the wrist-worn wearable devices. So mostly smartwatches, many of them have even a display, some of them don't have a display at all, but we think they make perfect sense when they're used in the right way, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But when I talk smartwatches in Resco terminology or in our world, that currently means Apple Watch and Android Watch as well. And then there's the third category that we also think has a big potential, and that's wearable computers. Think about devices similar to maybe tablets or our smartphones that you can easily attach to your arms, wrists, hands, or anywhere on your clothing, whether it's a uniform or some other protective clothing, and can equip you with additional source of information. They often come in more ruggedized fashion or ruggedized clothing, and they often also have easier means for data input. As an example, we already have a successful cooperation with HP, Hewlett-Packard. They're working very hard on a new wearable computer device that they provided us with, and we're supporting this wearable computer with Resco technology. So these are the three dark horses that we at Resco putting our focus on. If you don't mind, I would really love to hear your opinion and maybe make you a little bit of a more active part of this webinar. So I prepared a poll and let me launch it right now. I'd be very interested to understand what kind of smartwatch do you use, if any, and I put it in 4 different categories. So it could be an Apple Watch, Android Watch, fitness watch such as Garmin, Polar, Fitbit, etc. Or maybe you don't use any smartwatch and you're a fan of the traditional watch. So just a few more moments. It should be very easy. You can just click on one of the options. Okay, almost 70% of you have already voted. Excellent, just maybe 10 more seconds. Awesome, so I'm closing the poll now, and let's see the results. So, not sure if it's surprising or not, by the majority of you who are attending the webinar today, you're using a fitness watch, Garmin, Polar, Fitbit, etc., 33%. Then equally, Apple Watch and none of the smartwatches or traditional watch, 27%, and 13% we have the Android watch users. Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll keep that information and I'll just hide the results. So let me reshare the screen. Perfect. And let's now continue with the presentation. So, smartwatch. That's one of the types of wearable devices, and that's going to be my main focus, my main topic of the webinar as well. And I guess you probably have guessed it as well based on the poll that we just ran. There are a number of reasons why I picked smartwatch. The first one is probably a little bit subjective. I find it one of the easiest wearable technologies to demo when everything goes well. So hopefully the technology is not going to put me down today, and I'll be able to show you how we can run different types of applications on Apple Watch. And then there are some other good reasons. So I tried to list them here. So smartwatch obviously comes with a display, or most of the smartwatches come with a display, but it's important to understand that the display is pretty small. If you mostly use your mobile phone, smartphone, or tablet, you'll find that the display size of a smartwatch is fairly limited. The other important feature of smartwatches is there's a very limited data entry option. These devices are not equipped with a hardware keyboard, so when you want to fill in the data or update the data using your smartwatch, you pretty much have two options. You can use the software keyboard that is only displayed on that already small display, or you can use voice commands or voice dictations such as Siri on Apple Watch. The other important features, most of the smartwatches have pretty decent battery life. I think most of them will get you going for more than a day. Some of them even more than that, especially when we talk about those athlete watches. I know Garmin, Polar, they can last for a number of days, sometimes even 2 weeks. They also have kind of small footprint, which is a big advantage because you can easily wear them on your wrist. They're not distracting, and they're keeping both of your hands free. So that's, I think, a pretty big advantage. So a quick case study before we get to the other points. Let me just minimize my GoToWebinar panels. Okay, there we go. So case study. How many of you use Instagram? I know, Nilo, if you're there, you're a big technology enthusiast, and I bet you have an Instagram account. But this case study is going to be about something else. When Apple Watch was first introduced at the end of 2014 and then publicly released in 2015, Instagram was one of the first big companies that supported the Apple Watch with a standalone application dedicated totally just for the Apple Watch. Just 2.5, 3 years later, Instagram decided to completely remove that application from Instagram. And now 2 years later, it's still not there. There are some attempts by third-party applications to do that, but Instagram completely withdrawn from that game. So my question is, why do you think they have done so? And in order to get some of your feedback or ideas, let me launch another poll. So I put here some of the ideas or some of the options. Was it a weak use case? Was it a small display? Was it a lack of added value for the users, or maybe was it all of the above? So if you have your ideas, please feel free to share with me. I would really appreciate that. Again, simple click, one option only. Okay, 10 more seconds. And I'm closing the poll now. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So let's see what the results are showing. So total majority of you, more than 80% think that it's all of the above. And 18% of you believe it's because of the small display. Actually, I don't have the correct answer here, but if I should guess, I think it's all of the above. Just the idea of an application that is really all about pictures and the small display of the smartwatch. I don't think that makes much sense in default. Like, I can't imagine myself looking at all the pictures in high resolution of a small screen of an Apple Watch or a smartwatch in general. I think the use case is pretty weak as well, because why would I do it on my watch when I can do it on my phone? And that same idea I have for the lack of added value. So I think if I should bet, I would bet on all of the above. Anyway, thank you very much for your input, and let's now move on. So we get to the idea or area of key identifiers. So what should I look at when I'm planning to use wearable technology? What kind of questions I should ask myself? So the three most important ideas or identifiers based on Resco are context, use case, and tools. First of all, the context must be the right context when I want to utilize wearable technology. I must have a well-defined use case that actually brings the added where wearable technology brings the added value, and I should use the right tools. And when I say tools, I'm talking about both the wearable technology devices as well as the developer tools or technology that enables me to use those devices. So to make it a little bit simpler, I think the best approach is to actually combine the context and use case together. And I decided to call it the continuous experience. So, how do we create those experiences for mobile users or users who spend a lot of time traveling, going out, visiting customers, clients, and doing repairs, maintenance, etc., when they go through a complicated workflow? So, that continuous experience we can deconstruct into three important questions. First, we need to understand who the user is. Maybe it's a factory worker who moves from one machine to another, and it makes sense that this kind of user has a wearable technology so that it provides some additional value, like scanning spare parts, maybe giving some notifications, etc. It's also important to understand what kind of devices he or she is going to use. Is a smartwatch the best choice? Maybe it's a wearable computer that has a bigger screen that makes more sense. And the third question is, what kind of data is he or she going to work with? Is it going to be a lot of data collection activities, or is it going to be something that will help the user to make the right decisions? Maybe a device that would allow the user to get step-by-step directions or information about how to fix a complicated machinery. So those three should help you identify the continuous experience. But I believe this is the key. I don't think utilizing wearable devices and wearable technology just for using them makes much sense. Or the results are going to be fairly questionable. So in order to make it a success, I think the key point is to make it part of your existing workflow. So in order to demonstrate it in a little bit better way, I try to deconstruct a workflow of an augmented worker. So how does a typical day of an augmented worker could look like? So it all starts in the morning at home when I probably could utilize my phone and I'm checking my calendar. I want to see what kind of appointments, what kind of visits I have planned for today. So it's the work of scheduling and planning my work day. I think this typically can be done on a phone, tablet, or maybe even a laptop. The next one, I'm ready to hit the road, so I get in my car or van or truck, and I can use that tour plan that I created in my phone for navigation purposes. Even better if your car supports Apple CarPlay or maybe Android Auto, you can just easily hook up your phone and use everything that you scheduled and planned in the first step in your car. Then when I actually arrive at the site, at the location, whether that's a building, hotel, maybe an elevator shaft, maybe it's a restaurant, maybe part of my workflow is first I need to check for hazards. So I have to make sure that the environment I'm going to be working in or performing my job is perfectly safe. So let's call it a hazard scan. As one of the tasks that I have to do before I do my actual job. And I think it makes perfect sense to consider a watch here. Why? The watch allows me to have access to all the important steps or items that I have to check while keeping my hands free. So if I need to look behind some of the structures in the room, maybe open some windows, doors, etc., I can do it without any problems because I have both of my hands free. Then I do my actual regular work. Maybe I'm updating my appointments, my activities, adding some items on my work order, etc. So I'd probably use my phone and tablet that works in offline mode. Next one, if I need to conduct an inspection or maybe do some quick data collection, I think it makes sense to consider any of the three usual devices, phone, tablet, or watch, based on the use case. Perhaps when I'm done, I need to hand in a report, maybe a PDF file to the customer. If I'm required to capture a signature as part of the process, I'm probably not even going to consider any of the wearable technologies and would prefer a phone or tablet. And maybe as a bonus, if I have to fix or repair a complex machinery, maybe some sophisticated machine or device, maybe smart glasses, AR or VR headset can help me to do it easily. So if you look at it now, with just maybe a second looking at the whole workflow, I think this could make sense to look at with the idea or with the question, does it make sense to make some of the things using the wearable technologies? Some of those processes we try to identify, so the hazard scan, definitely, maybe some data collection or inspection, definitely, and some complex repair. The other things, I would definitely make sure that I'm utilizing the other devices that are more suitable for that. So let's now have a quick look at the tools that we can use. So I think we have pretty much two options when we're targeting the wearable technologies and especially the smartwatches. There are native development tools. So if you're targeting Apple, it's the Apple Watch Kit. If you're targeting Android devices, make sure that you enable the Wear OS project. The other area, perhaps giving you some shortcuts and advantages, is the approach of utilizing the multi-experience development platforms. That's more of the approach that we have chosen at Resco as well, because we believe that especially the enterprise area is more about processes and certain workflows and actions and jobs that I'm doing and working on out in the field that are pretty similar and can be achieved using some of the multi-experience development capabilities. So how we approached it with Resco, we approached it with our technology, which is very simply described here. But the most important part is the middle part and the upper part. So Resco comes with very powerful tools. It's mostly all around the Resco Woodford tool. For those of you who are familiar with the Woodford tool, it's really a way to configure any type of business application, create different screens for support for custom functionality, etc. But the Woodford tool also comes with a lot of additional designers and functionalities and functional blocks, such as Resco inspections, because that's what we believe makes more sense in the wearable area. Why? If you're familiar with Resco and you know that, it can be used to build a mobile application, you probably don't want to create a fully functional mobile application that you're going to run in a smartwatch. We want to create that one specific scenario for that specific process. So the outcome of Resco technology can be a mobile experience or a mobile application that runs on smartwatches, and we fully support Apple Watch OS and Android Wear OS, smart glasses, Oculus, HoloLens, Epson, Google Glass Pro, etc. Mobile devices, of course, and then progressive web applications are supported as well. So now the demo. Let me first bring the mobile device on, and that would be, okay, here we go. I'll just bring it to this screen. Perfect. So what you'll see here is actually my phone. So I'm gonna try to revisit the workflow that we tried to deconstruct as on one of the previous slides. So I'm not gonna do everything on my watch, but as part of my job, I'll get to a point, okay, now it's time to actually go through the hazard scan. So I'm working with my application. Maybe I arrived at the site. I open up the details about the account that I have to work on. And as part of my jobs, I made the application very simple. I have many different questionnaires that I can work on. So what I'll do now, I'll switch to my iPad and show you how did this, okay, how this process can be done on a smartwatch rather than on a mobile phone. So hopefully you can still see my screen. This is the Apple smartwatch that I'm using. I'll first unlock it. There we go. What I'll do next, I run the mobile CRM application, so I'll pick it up from this list and I'll start it. And the application on the watch tells me, open a questionnaire on your connected handheld. So what I'll do, you can't see it now, but I'll open the HazScan checklist on my mobile phone. I can now put my phone away and I can continue the job or the work on my Apple Watch. So sorry about that, one more time. Okay, here we go. So the first question is, do I encounter any hazards? Yes or no? Maybe yes, I did. Single tap. Was there a risk of slip, trip, or fall? Yes. Overexertion or strain? No. Did I get caught in moving objects? No. Was there any contact with harmful energy sources? No. Any harmful substances? Yes. And the last question, did you complete your HazScan? Yes, I did. When I finalize that last question, I'm prompted to continue my work on the handheld, and now I can actually do my job using the phone or tablet. So I return back to the iPhone now, and you'll see that this whole questionnaire, as we went through it on the watch, is fully updated on my phone. If I want to, I can check it one more time, make sure that everything makes sense, and all I have to do now is just save it. So that was pretty easy, and I think makes quite a good sense. The other one, another example, I'm going to walk you through a more of an elaborated questionnaire that I'll run again on the watch. It will be the air conditioning check. So more of a step-by-step process that will guide me through repairing or checking on the AC unit. So let me switch back to the iPad so that you can see the watch. Okay, here we go. So same things again. I'll unlock the watch. I'll run the mobile CRM application. And here I'm gonna start the questionnaire about the AC unit fix.
I didn't get that.
Okay, so first of all, we choose the manufacturer, let's say LG. I'll choose the type. It's central, ductless, window, or portable. So I'll choose the window one. I can type in the serial number. So I'll do that just very quickly. When I'm done, I hit done. Okay. Start the inspection. Yes, I'm ready to inspect the AC unit. So first I need to check and clean the condenser coils. Yes, I've done that. I need to check and clean the air filters. Yes, I've done that. I need to define the room size in square meters. So let's say it's a 45 square meter large room. I think that's perfectly fine. I can define date of today's inspection. Yes, it's today. Done. And I can also put in the date and time of the next inspection. So let's say I know I have to get there next month. So I'll set it up for May, and current time I think is just perfect because I know I'll work on it as part of my scheduling and planning part. So now I can add some additional comments, and I can just say everything went well. One more point, and this is an example that we can also support multiple select type of questions on a watch. So if I use some spare parts as part of the inspection of the AC unit, I can mark them here. So I check the air filters, and I use some new ones, and I also use some rubber hose. As you can see, these two selections will be saved, and I hit OK. That means I finished the whole inspection process, and I can choose the option to continue on my handheld device. So a quick switch to my iPhone again. Here we go, and this is pretty much what we did on the Apple Watch. So the manufacturer is defined at the top. The type of AC unit is defined as well. As you can see, all the information as captured on the watch is transformed or transcribed into my mobile app as well, and I can just hit the save button and save that inspection job right away. So those two were the examples of how this works on a mobile phone, on the mobile watch. And let me now do the second demo. And what I'll do here, I'll show you what kind of tools we actually use to build those questionnaires that run on the Apple Watch. So for those of you who are not familiar with what you see right now, this is the portal for Resco inspections. It works across all of the backend systems that Resco supports. And part of my inspections modules is a designer module. So I can open it up, which I did a few moments before I kicked off the webinar. And the questionnaire designer allows me to create very simple dynamic forms. simple, but they can be complex as well, depending on your preference. But for the smartwatch interface, we actually suggest something simpler. So let's now have a look at that air conditioning check that I walked you through as part of the last demo. So I open it up, and this will give you an idea how all those questions were built. So here on the left hand side, I can see the structure of my questionnaire. You can see there's a field for manufacturer, type of central AC, and then some additional fields as defined on the questionnaire. And in the center of the screen, I can see the details, and this is my working canvas where I can change any of the answers or questions as well, or maybe add some additional ones. So you can see when I scroll down, these are all the options. The last one that I showed you was to define the spare parts. So here they are: air filter, fan, AC compressor, and rubber hose. There's a lot of working components that you have at your disposal. You can access them right here. So if I switch to the components tab on the left hand side, you can see that there's a lot of controls and components that you can place on your questionnaire and have available across many different devices, including the smartwatches. Once I'm done, once this is ready, I just publish the questionnaire designer, and then it's accessible through my mobile application and my smartwatches right away. If you'd like to learn more about how to use this, I'll put together some steps how to use it. Obviously, the first important step is to get a smartwatch, but I think many of you have some kind of a smartwatch already. So that should be easy. Then you can create an inspection trial on Resco website. It's very simple. It's probably just 4 fields that you have to fill out. And then if in case you get lost or would have some questions, you would need some help, there's a really great course that we put together. It's part of the Resco Academy. So you can sign up. It's completely free, available 24/7. And it's called Resco Inspections. It's part of the technical courses. And the last step, for me, quite kind of important. I would love to hear your feedback, what you think of the experience of creating questionnaires or inspection forms for smartwatches and wearable devices. So with that, I'd like to open it up for your questions. Again, you're muted, so please use the questions tab as part of the GoToWebinar application. I'll give you a few moments to type them in. If we run out of time, you have my word that I'll get back to all of you. Also, if you'll have more questions later on, feel free to reach out to me by email. It's very simple. It's my first name, Ivan or Ivan at resco.net. That should be fairly easy. Okay, we have a first question here. How much is Resco inspections? Or perhaps we can expand on that. Does it come with a separate license? So the answer is yes. Resco inspections is licensed separately, as we believe this is a standalone solution apart from the traditional mobile experience that can be achieved with Resco technology. If I'm not mistaken, the price for Resco inspections per mobile user is around $18 per user per month. But we have a complete pricing on our website that keeps being updated regularly. So I recommend going there, but I think it should be around $18 per mobile user per month. Thank you for the question. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'd like to thank you very much for spending these 40 something minutes with me today. I hope you learned something new about wearable technology, what different categories there are, what different approaches, what's probably key to make sure that we can be successful when trying to utilize wearable technologies, and some examples of how we approach smartwatches with Resco technology and how we can make that experience for the mobile user more friendly and also much richer. Thank you very much. I'll wish you a very nice rest of your day, and I hope to see you at one of the next or future Resco webinars.